Good morning, Bulldog fans, and welcome to the Butler Beat. I'm Katie Goodrich. Public speaking and presentation skills are things that every person should have. The forensics program at Butler is a particular help to students in this area and allows students to compare themselves with peers at other schools. Today, I'll be talking with the director of the Butler Forensics Program, Professor Janice Crawford. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thanks for having me, Katie.
So what exactly is the forensics program?
The forensics program at Butler includes speech, individual events, and debate. So the debate program is separate, and they have a separate director, and I'm the director of the speech program.
So what's the difference between the speech program and the debate team?
The speech program has individual events, so persuasive speaking, informative speaking. The debate program is a two-person policy debate, and so they have one topic they do all year long, and they argue back and forth.
So as the director of the speech program, what are your responsibilities?
I recruit students, I coach students, travel with them, take them to events, take them to tournaments all over the Midwest.
So how many tournaments do you guys go to each semester?
We go to approximately 5 to 7 tournaments a semester. We usually go to 2 national tournaments in the spring.
And where are the tournaments? Are they local or do you have to travel and stay overnight?
We travel and stay overnight most of the time. Occasionally there are local ones like University of Indianapolis last weekend, but we travel to Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, so kind of in this Midwest area.
Can you tell me a little bit about the different events that you can do while you're on the speech team?
Sure. You can do, like I said, persuasion, informative, what's called rhetorical criticism. These are speeches that you write, you memorize, use the same speech all year long. There's also events which are called limited prep, which are extemporaneous speaking, which is where you get a topic, you have 30 minutes to write a speech, and you go. You don't know what you're going to do until you get there. Those are current event topics. And then there's an impromptu, which is the same kind of thing, only 2 minutes of preparation. And then there's what's called interpretation, which are events like poetry, prose, drama. Those are a little more like acting events. So those are the 3 categories.
So since the events are so different, how do students prepare for them? Instead of preparing a speech with the limited prep, how does that work?
So do you mean like preparing ahead of time with limited prep? So we collect articles for current events for like extemporaneous. We have a database of articles because those are all current event topics, and so students collect those articles. We do practices where I get topics that are from the newspaper, that kind of thing, and then they practice and put those speeches together. So we have actual practices but there's not a lot of prep in terms of memorizing a speech, except you have half an hour.
So then how do students who have a prepared speech practice?
So they have a topic, and then they do their own research, and it's a topic they really are interested in. They do their own research, they put the speech together. I then help them in terms of tweaking it, making sure it has transitions, things that beginning speakers sometimes forget. They have to have outside sources, research, all that kind of thing. So then they do the speech for me, and we tweak it some more and make it better. They go to a tournament, they get more feedback right away. They hopefully improve it for the next tournament.
So even though they do the same speech all season, they tweak it and they change it, so they'll still do the same topic?
Sure, they do the same topic all year. So by the end of the year, it's a really good speech. It's really well memorized. And the trick is it's memorized, but they don't want to sound memorized. So they work a lot on making it sound conversational.
So students may have participated in this activity in high school. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between high school speech and college level speech?
One of the big differences is that in high school, most students only do they do 1 event, maybe 2 events, because of the way the high school tournaments are set up. They're only going to do 1 or 2 events at a tournament. In college, you can do as many events as you want. So we'll have students who, for example, think that they only want to do a persuasive speech. They get into it, go and watch other events like prose, and suddenly they want to do more acting type events. So they can do almost as many events as you want. I've had students take 5, 6 events to 1 tournament before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does that become a heavy workload for them?
Sure. I mean, these are students who are really involved in speech team and go to almost every tournament. So I have all kinds of levels of involvement. I'll have students who do like 1 or 2 events, and then I'll have students who do 5 or 6. So it just depends. Really, it's up to the student.
So if there are different levels of involvement, are there also different levels of experience on the team?
Sure. I have kids, again, who did it in high school who were state champions or national champions in high school before they come here. And then I have students who have never, ever been on the speech team in their lives. And they just want to get better at public speaking. So, yeah, absolutely.
So then how do you train the kids that have no speech experience?
Well, one of the things I try to do is to limit the number of events that they do. So I don't want to start off a kid on doing 5 events, right? So I try to find something that they like. So maybe they are interested in current events. I'm going to steer them toward extemporaneous speaking. Or maybe they're interested in more of the acting events, acting things. So I might, steer them towards prose. So as opposed to a student who's done it before, they have an idea of what they like to do. And so they're able to take on a little bit more. So, but it's really up to the student how much they want to do.
What's your favorite event?
I have favorite events to coach and favorite events to judge. So I really like to coach interpretive events. A big part of my graduate program was interpretation. So the prose, poetry, drama, I really like to coach those. I don't always like to judge them because sometimes when I'm judging, I want to go, no, do it this way, and so I don't always like to judge them, but I really like to judge extemporaneous speaking. So because it's on current events, so it's just interesting, and they have more information, and I'm kind of a news person anyway, so I enjoy the extemporaneous stuff to judge.
So you have to judge when you go to events, and what does that entail?
So at each event, each judge will cover up to 6 what are called slots. So each thing a person does, each student, like if they do 2 events, that's 2 slots. So one judge covers 6 slots. So I'm expected to judge up to 6 rounds. So I usually don't. We usually only try to limit to like maybe 4 at the most. But we'll go and they give us ballots. We go to the room and there usually are 5 or 6 performers and they do their presentations. We write comments on their ballots, time them to make sure it fits in the time requirements, and write constructive criticism and then rank them 1 through 6 or whatever. So it's kind of what judging is about.
Can you walk me through the average competition day or weekend even?
Sure. So this past weekend we had a tournament at University of Indianapolis. So that was here. So I picked students up at, we'll say 7 o'clock because I was late. But we picked students up at 7 o'clock and we went to University of Indianapolis, drove there, and I talked to the students about where to go. They get a code or like a number that identifies them. So the judges don't necessarily know what school anybody is from. And then they go to their rounds, and they will do 2 rounds of their event, so 2 preliminary rounds. And then in college, it's broken up, so there are what are called flights. So there are 12 events total, so they split them in half. So then half the events are in the morning, for example, the other half will be in the afternoon. So that's why you can do 4 or 5 events, because you can, they're split up. And then they will go and do their 2 events. Obviously, there's a lunch involved, and then there's afternoon events, and then they put the ballots together. They then will post like a final list, and there'll be like 6 people in finals. Those people are then qualified for the national tournament that we go to if they get into finals. So that's kind of what happens.
And so it's referred to as the speech team, but if all of the events or most of the events are individual, how do you guys bond?
We do a lot of fun things. I actually teach small group communication here, and one of the things that I've discovered is that if we get together and talk about things other than speech, then it creates a bond. So We do have meetings once a week or every other week, but we also, after the tournament's over, we go to dinner, and I have everybody tell a story, a personal story about themselves on a theme, and that includes myself. So students learn about me, and I learn about them and their lives. And so I think last week we did embarrassing moments, so that was pretty entertaining. So it's usually on a theme of some kind, hospital visits or whatever the theme is that week. So it just helps the students get to know each other better. And the van trips help too.
That's great. I'm sure the van trips are quite interesting.
They are. 4 or 5 hours in a van, you get really close with people, so.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
You also teach public speaking here at Butler, so do a lot of the lessons that you teach there overlap with the lessons that you teach on the speech team?
Sure. It's also really interesting to have students in my classes who are on the speech team. So because I'm teaching a business and professional communication class, and I have a couple members of the speech team in that class. And they will do things like, oh, you want to walk your main points, which is kind of a speech team thing. And so they actually show students, how to walk their main points. And so, it absolutely helps. There's a lot of crossover. Because students, it's the same basic process. It's persuasive speaking in class, persuasive speaking on the speech team. So absolutely a lot of crossover.
So there's also a way that you can get class credit for the speech team at Butler. Can you explain that to me?
Sure. You can get up to 1 hour of credit per semester for 6 semesters if you're on the speech team. I have a syllabus. You have to go to at least 3 tournaments and do at least 2 events. And then there are short reflection papers associated with the class. But it's a COM 305, 306 class. The debate team also has a class associated with it too. So you can get credit for debate and or speech.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being with me today. Coming up next on the Butler Beat, the Desmond Tutu Center is coming to Butler. Akira Jennings will talk to the Dean of Butler's Liberal Arts and Sciences College next. I'm Katie Goodrich, and you're watching the Butler Beat.